Hi all, in this video let's learn about functions in JavaScript, its basics, and also about a few more interesting and important points regarding the functions. So let's check one after the other. So firstly, the first question, why to use the functions? What are functions? So in a code, in your file, if you have certain code like this, so if you want this piece of code to be repeated multiple times, so what usually we used to do, so we'll use this once, and again if you want to write this logic, if you want to have this logic again, you will write this piece of code one more time. So instead of that, these functions will help us in avoiding the code repetition. So instead of writing this code multiple times, you will write a function, and in that function you will paste this code, and whenever you want this code to be executed, you can just call that function. In that way you can avoid the code duplication. So and now it will allow us to use the same code multiple times, not repeating the code. We can use this multiple times. So that's the reason functions are called as main building blocks of any program. So now let's understand what is a function declaration and everything, each and every point in a functions. So in JavaScript, we need to declare like this. So function is a keyword or a reserved word, and function name that should be in camel case. And here you are going to give the parameters. So list of the parameters, and inside this you will be writing your logic or a function body. This is called as a function body. So overall, this is considered as a function declaration. How to call a function? So this is how you're going to call a function, and plainly you can call like this, and also you can pass some of the arguments here, a1 a2 like this. So you can pass these arguments. These are known as the arguments here. So I will tell you the difference between these arguments and parameters as well. So these are known as the arguments. So this is how you're going to call the function, with the function name and with the parentheses, and you are going to pass the arguments in this. So this is how the function declaration is, and this is how the function calling is. So now let's understand the difference between the parameters and the argument. So most of the times we used to call them in a different way, like we call parameters as arguments, argument as a parameters. But remember this, so when you are declaring a function, you're giving any of these variables here, so those are considered as a parameters. While you're calling the function, what are you're giving here, those are called as arguments. That's the first point we need to understand. So coming to the another point, like about return statements, if you call any function like this, so this function will execute, and it will not return anything unless if you keep something to return from this. So you will usually you write functions as a block of code, and you will calculate something like tax calculation or employee details. So you will do something calculations, and if you are expecting some return value from the function, the keyword is the reserved word is return. You need to write a return, and whatever the value you want to return, you can keep that value. This value can be anything. So that is what we need to do. Once a function it sees the return statement, then the function execution stops at that point. It will exit from that this function, and it will go back to the calling function. Who has called it, it will return that value here. So that is what usually happens. So you're writing a function, and this function is returning back to this function. So if there are no one to catch this value, so here there is no one, no other variable or no other person to catch this return value. In that case, this return value is no one is catching. So this will collapse. I mean, this will go into a it's a garbage. Even if you're returning some value, you're not using that value. In that case, this doesn't make any sense. So in order to access or use that return value, use this constant and function return value. You can keep some relevant name accordingly, and you can do like this. So now I'm calling a function, and I'm doing some logic operations, and I'm returning the result value here, and that result value is catched by this variable. So in this variable, this return value will be stored. So that's the main usage of this return. So whenever a function sees the return statement, it will exit the remaining lines in that code, and it will immediately comes out of this function. So that is what it does. So one more, there are a few more points to understand regarding the return statements. For example, here, if you don't return anything, if you don't return anything, or if you return only, just if you keep a return statement like this, or if you don't return anything, then it is going to return you undefined. So it will return undefined as a value. If you not return anything, or if you keep only just a return keyword, it is going to return undefined. So that what it happens. So now we should not, so the another point is we should not add a new line between the return statement and the value. The reason why, because so here I'm returning a value. So I will return a value, and if you keep something like this, so this will not return anything. So most of the code, if you see like this, so here what happens, JavaScript will automatically inserts the semicolon at the end of the statement. So that's the reason what happens is here return, it will keep the semicolon. JavaScript will automatically insert the semicolon. So that's the reason the semicolon will come here. So it will not, it means you're not returning anything. So undefined is returned here. So that's the reason we say there is a rule that never add a new line between the return and the value you're passing. So it means you're passing, you're trying to pass the result back to the calling function. So the return and the returned value should be on the same line. You should not give it different in a different line. If you do like this, JavaScript automatically inserts a semicolon and you'll get an undefined as a return value. So that's the reason we should do this. Okay. So, and coming to the naming conventions. So functional naming conventions, usually function naming should be in a camel case, and that function name should tell up about what logic we are writing. So for example, if you're trying to get the employee details, get employee details. So it should represent the task you're doing inside the function. So that in that way you need to define the function names. And also if you're creating some data, if you're creating some user details, create user details. So like this, the name should be there. It should be a camel case, and this should define what logic you're writing inside the function. So this is about the function naming conventions. And remember one thing, one function should define only one task at a time. So it should be only one task. You should not define more tasks. It should be only one task. If you're writing a function, only define only one task. It means if you're particular at one logic, only do that logic. Don't merge many tasks into one function. And ideally, this will help us in debugging and in unit testing also. This will help us. One function, one action. Don't involve or don't include more tasks into one function. So the another point is regarding the function declaration and the function expression. So whatever we have seen here, it is a function declaration. So you have wrote a function here, and you can call it below this function, or you can call this function above this function also. You can call this function declaration. The functions can be called below or above the functions. Whereas if you're declaring a function expression, so how it looks exactly. So let's see a sample function. So I will write this is known as a this is a function expression. So just I'm writing a sample function expression. So this is how it looks. So I'm returning a value a plus b. So this is known as a function declaration, function expression, sorry. This is a function expression. So if you define any function like this, then after writing this, then only you call this sum function. You can't use this sum function before declaring this function. So that's the reason, that's the difference between the function declaration and the function expression. Okay. Once it is declared, then only you can call this. If you call this before declaring this, it is unknown. Sum is unknown to the JavaScript compiler, so it will throw an error here. Whereas coming to the function declaration, it is not in that way. You can declare this function and you can call it before this function is declared or after this function line as well. So that's the main difference between the function declaration and the function expression. And coming to the arrow functions. So regarding these arrow functions and the difference between the function declaration and normal function, a regular function and arrow functions, I have done a dedicated video on this. I will keep this at the end of the cards at the end of the video. Please check it for more details regarding the arrow functions. So it's I will cover here a basic thing regarding the arrow functions. Usually arrow function is a bit convenient way of using the functions, and this is the latest concept. So it uses the function expressions. So that's the reason the syntax would be in this way. So it represents the same function representation like this. So how to remove the arrows and how to keep means, so you no need to use a function keyword like this. So just remove that and just pass a parenthesis symbol And now you need to keep an arrow and you need to keep a flower basis like this. So this is a simple way of using, and calling the function will not change. So just you will call the function with two parameters. That's it. Sorry, two arguments here. These are called as arguments. These are called as the parameters. Okay. So this is where you are going to declare an arrow functions. So the difference between the arrow function and the regular function, you can have more details. So this is a simple definition. In the terms of declaration only, it changes, not in terms of calling the function. So these are the more details or more information regarding the functions in JavaScript. Hope you understand the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos.